2020 is almost over and it's been a weird year for just about everybody, but I'd just like to quickly take a look back at all the game development that I've done. But because this is a YouTube video, I need some arbitrary thing to make it interesting. So I'm gonna do it in 5 minutes. Before January, I had already uploaded a few gamedev related videos onto my channel. I did a game jam, released some other videos, and made a PewDiePie fan game for some reason. I decided I was going to get serious about it and actually get some work done on my big project. The game didn't have a name at this time and it was basically a janky little platformer, so I decided to make a big video where I overhauled the entire game. The eventual plan was for the game to be a Metroidvania with fast-paced movement and a boss ripped straight from Portal. Overhauling the game and making a video about it was a pretty big challenge for me at the time, and I really had to learn more about pixel art, programming, and my engine of choice at the time, GameMaker Studio 2. But in the end, I ended up making the game look much nicer. I added guns, more movement abilities, and a few actually good enemies. I released this video on January 21st, and for the first time in my channel's 3-year history, I began to actually grow at a noticeable rate. I continued to update the game and release devlogs at an admittedly more consistent rate than I do even now. I overhauled the art and added lighting, more enemies, and began to build the first area. Around this time, I began to realize that this game was way too overscoped. It would take years upon years of work to finish it, and it probably wouldn't even be that great in the end. I eventually decided that I would finish up the first area, and then consider maybe moving on to a different project. I eventually finished off the game by creating a robotic boss for the end of the first area. I still haven't released the game yet because it's in a largely unfinished and unplayable state. Perhaps I should release it someday. But anyway, at this point I moved on to my next project, which I hoped would be a little bit more obtainable. Around this time I had an idea for a game. I wanted to make a split-screen multiplayer game specifically made for PC, so I decided to make that my next big project. I had a tiny bit of experience with Unity after trying it out for a few weeks for a video, so I decided that Unity would be a good engine to switch to. So I switched to it and began work on my brand new game, Couch Combat. At the start of development, I spent a very large amount of time just watching tutorials for figuring out Unity. But after a while, I created a very basic FPS game with bean players and super janky floating guns. Before long, I had a somewhat playable game with 2 players. Crouching was broken and the stage was literally a big cube with 2 other cubes floating just above it, but it was a start. A major part of making 3D games is 3D modeling, and since I wanted to have a low poly art style like totally accurate battlegrounds, I decided that I needed to start learning the 3D model. Funny enough, the thing that took the most time with 3D modeling wasn't the modeling itself, but importing it into Unity. It's over 6 months later now, and it still takes me forever to import all the animations for guns correctly. But I began to build stages, and the game slowly started to take shape. While big projects are fun and all, I decided that I would take a break from Couch Combat to participate in a week-long game jam. And for this game jam, I decided to focus on something that interested me: procedural generation. Looking back, this game's procedural generation is super basic and the game itself is pretty unpolished. But I did make it just after moving to Unity, so I guess it makes sense. After finishing up on that, I went right back to work on the game, only stopping momentarily to make 3,677 giant enemy spiders. Don't ask. I gradually got better at making 3D models and animations, and I made new weapons, stages, and continued to build the structure of the game. But once again, I decided to participate in another game jam, and this time I wanted to make an actual 3D game. So I used this old tutorial I found to make a physics-based hoverboard. Then I basically built a game around that. I think this game ended up being quite a bit better than my previous jam game, and the video is still my most popular to date. Getting back to business, I added particles to my game, added a new shotgun weapon, and completely overhauled the art style. At this point, I was getting pretty close to having a full gameplay loop. And then, one last time, I decided that it was jam time. This time I tried out Godot Engine, and made a little Hotline Miami inspired game in a week. It wasn't great, but it was fun to learn a new engine. By this time, I was ready to release the beta version of the game, so I gave myself 2 weeks to polish it up and release the game. I made more stages, fixed bugs, polished and added scoring and kill counting. Then I released it for free on itch.io. After releasing it, I redid all the gun's 3D animations in my game and got to work making the game more fun to play. I gradually updated the game during this period. Then I decided that I wanted to make Minecraft. So I made a Minecraft clone in Unity, complete with explosions. It took me nearly a month, but I learned a lot during this time. Coming back from that, I added things like a pause menu and settings to the game and released a big new update for it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I've done in the past year for this channel and game dev in general. I've come quite a ways from being a beginner in Game Maker Studio to now having experience in every single major engine other than Unreal. Maybe I should try to do that someday. But anyways, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more and comment more incoherent garbage into the comment section below. Bye.